Well, good morning. Well, at least when I'm recording this, it's in the morning. Thank God it's Friday. It seems like it's been a long week for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a long week for me, and I'm just blessed it's Friday because I'm ready just to relax. But today's preaching will be on John 4, about the woman at the well with Jesus. It starts in St. John chapter 4, if you want to turn there. I already turned there. But we're going to start out just reading the first verse and continue on from there. In John 4, it says, "When therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again into Galilee. And he must needs go through Samaria. Then cometh he to the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel ground that Jacob gave his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, Give me a drink. For his disciples were gone away into the city to buy meat." Now, Jesus went through, there's other routes he could have took, but he went through this specific one, and he wanted to go through this just to meet this Samaritan woman. It wasn't coincidence that Jesus got there and just, sounded well, and then the woman, Samaritan, came. Jesus knew when she would be there, and Jesus went there purposefully to rest, just so he could talk to her. And you say, well, how do I know that? Well, I know that because Jesus, what he did didn't happen coincidentally. He always had a reason for everything he did. And he knew that woman came there to draw at that hour, and he knew he would have the opportunity to talk to her. And it continues on, it says, "Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which is a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." Now, this was an odd case because, like she said, the Jews didn't like the Samaritans didn't like the Jews. They often didn't talk to one another because they hated each other. And that's why in the future, his disciples marveled when they came back, he was talking with her, because usually Jews don't talk to Samaritans. But that comes later. It continues on, it says, "Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then thou hast that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us a well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in a well of water, springing up into everlasting life." Jesus was preaching to her about everlasting life, about the water he could give her. At this time, she didn't understand what he meant, because she wasn't saved, obviously. And she was honestly, genuinely curious. She said, next verse, she said, "The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, and I come hither to draw. And Jesus said to her, Go, call thy husband, and come hither. And the woman answered and said, I have no husband. And Jesus said to her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. And that says thou truly." Jesus was explaining to her past, and I think it was a way for him to convince her that he was who he said he was, in the future verses here. If you want to skip down, let me see here. If you want to skip down verse 25, that's where we continue on. It says, "The woman saith unto him, I know that the Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. And Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee am he." And the point of this came to disciples, and marveled that he talked with a woman, like I was saying earlier. It says, "Yet no man said, What seekest thou, or why talkest thou with her?" The disciples didn't bother asking Jesus because they knew everything he did had a reason and a purpose, and they knew better than to question the master, is what I believe. And after Jesus had talked to her about her past, and after he had told her about the living water he could give her and how she could have everlasting life, she immediately, I imagine she ran into the city and started telling everybody, and she had said, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Is this not the Messiah, it's the Christ?" And she had started witnessing to all these people in the town. And then what ended up happening was they all came out just to meet Jesus. And they believed at first because of the word she said, but after they had seen Jesus, they said, we didn't believe you because of the word you said, but because of what he says, we believe him. And if you want to skip down, it says, "And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman, which testified, He told me all that I ever did." they believed her enough to head out to see Jesus. And when the Samaritans were coming to him, they besought him that he would tarry with them, and he abode there 2 days. And many more believed because of his own word, and said unto the woman, Now we believe, not because of thy saying, for we have heard of him ourselves, and know that this is indeed Christ, the Savior of the world. Yet through one encounter with the Samaritan woman, Jesus got a whole bunch of people to believe. And he knew the end result of that. And therefore, that's why he went to the well in the first place. And you're probably wondering, well, what's your point of this chapter? My point is, Jesus came to her at a time when it was convenient for him and for her. He knew that she would be alone. He knew she was going to draw their water. And he knew that if he sat on the well, she would come and he'd be able to witness and talk to her about salvation, about everlasting life, about the waters of life. That's like us in our lives. Jesus knows. He knows when we're going to be alone. He knows when the best time to talk to us is. If you think about it, if you're in a crowd or you're at your friend's house or anything like that, and you're talking to all these people and listening to music and stuff like that, more than likely you're going to be absent from the spirit and be present in the body, as Paul had said. And it's not easy for Jesus to talk to that, because Jesus don't use a loud voice to talk. He uses a whisper to talk. That's why he knows when we're alone, and that's one of the easiest ways for him to speak to us is when we're alone. Because if our mind's focused on the world and all this other stuff, it's hard to hear that little voice of God. Not little, I should say, but the whisper of God talking to you. I'll say Jesus knows when we're at our own place, at our loneliness. He knows when everything's quiet. He knows when best to come to us. And he came to that woman just to talk to her about it. And through that, all the people in the town came and listened to Jesus preach the word. And I imagine they all got saved because of that one encounter. And that's like with us, when Jesus speaks to us and we get saved, we go around and profess the gospel and proclaim it. And we say, this Jesus, he saved me from all I ever did. Won't you give him a chance? And therefore, you tell that person, and then this person tells that person, and therefore they get saved. But I'll say I loved this because Jesus knew exactly when she was going to be there. He knew when the best time would be just to talk to her and get her alone. If you want to, I want to talk about something else too. That's not related to this chapter, but some people believe that, obviously if they aren't saved, they believe that good people go to heaven, and that's not the truth. Yes, good people go to heaven, but only if they're saved. That's the key. If you're just good, you're not going to get into heaven. I remember when I was young and I asked my mom, I said, Mom, you're good, aren't you? I said, don't that mean you'll get into heaven? And she looked a little sad at first, and she said no. And I believe that's what started getting us into church. The thing is, good people don't make it into heaven. It's only people who are saved. You could spend your whole life out there giving to the poor, giving to the needy. You could even give your money to churches. But if you're not saved by the blood of the Lamb and you're not saved by Jesus, you're not going to make it into heaven. That's the thing that's important, because that we're saved. And you want to say, well, I didn't ever remember reading anything like that. Well, I want to show you. You want to skip clear back into the book of Revelation, the final book in the Word. We're going to skip to Revelation 21 here. It's talking about a new heaven and a new earth, about New Jerusalem coming down. Beautiful chapter if you read it. It's just amazing. But you want to skip down to 24 here. It's talking about New Jerusalem. I'll say it says, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And if you listen, look what it says, and the nations of them which are saved. It don't say the nations of them which are good. It says nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light thereof. That's what we're heading towards, a New Jerusalem in the end. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful city, a beautiful place to reside with God and live eternally. But only the nations of them, the only people who are saved, are going to walk in the light of it. Honestly, that was my main lesson today I wanted to talk about. Jesus always knows the best time to talk to you. He always reveals things in his own timing. I know a lot of us pray and say, Lord, please answer this for me. Please answer why I'm going through this. Please answer why I haven't got this yet. And they never receive an answer. Or at least they don't on their own timing. The thing is, God reveals things in his own timing because his timing is perfect. If he revealed things to us now, then, we may not believe it. Like, I believe it's Habakkuk said, God, show me what you're doing. And God said to Habakkuk, he said, no. He said, I'm not going to show you what I'm doing because you're not going to believe it. And that's why. Because we may not believe it, and also it's not the right timing for him to disclose things to us. And no matter what, we have to trust in him for his timing because it is perfect. And his will is perfect. I want to say, I hope you guys have a blessed Friday, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson. And just remember, the best place to talk to God is when you're in private and alone, because there you can fully hear his voice and listen to what he has to say. If you're in a crowded place, it makes it a lot harder. I'm not saying you can't hear him, but I'm saying it makes it a lot harder, at least it does for me personally. So I pray you guys have a good Friday and a good rest of the week, and just leave a comment if you want. And just remember, the Lord loves us and he only wants what's best for us.